What is the one dish that makes you happiest? The one so special it's more than just food. It carries stories, feelings, people, and memories. This December, every day, I'll be making a dish that makes you happy, in the hopes that this holiday season we can celebrate the food that makes us who we are. This first dish actually comes from me. As a kid, every Sunday my family used to get together and eat a variation of this meal. Creamy, buttery mashed potatoes with airy, fluffy chicken schnitzels. My mom would always take the remaining batter and mix in some sort of cheese and spices and fry that into imperfect little dough balls. It was all topped with an extremely garlicky sauce, and I used to basically drink that stuff. I feel very bad for anyone who interacted with me in the following days. And even though this is not the most special dish, the way I remember it, the smells, the sounds, it's so unique to me, to a specific time and place. And I find that fascinating. I'll see you tomorrow for day 2. Every day of December, I'm cooking a dish that makes you happy. And for day 2, we have anonymous submission number 159. Erbsensuppe. To me, this is a total winter comfort dish. When autumn came, and eventually winter, my dad and I would plan projects to build ourselves downstairs in the basement, where we had a room full of tools. We built shelves, a desk, and also made wooden decorations for our Christmas tree. The basement didn't have heating, and we were often cold, and this soup was the best thing. We would get out of the cold basement and warm up with a bowl of this hearty stew. Also, make sure not to puree everything. It's best when you can still see the ingredients and identify them. This is day 3 of trying the dishes that make you happy. Today we're making buñuelos and natilla. These are little Colombian cheese balls made with cornstarch and yuca flour and a cheese called costeño. The dough had a little bit of a weird consistency, but eventually I was able to form some balls that I then fried. It's very important for the oil not to be too hot to get the right texture, and trust me, you're gonna want to experience this texture. It's crispy on the outside, soft and pillowy on the inside, and they're usually served around the holiday season with a creamy custard called natilla. The person who submitted this dish said it's very special for them because their grandma used to make the best buñuelos and natilla. Sadly, she passed away last year, but her memory lives on through us making and celebrating this dish. And I'm sure I didn't do as good of a job as your grandma, but they were amazing and I really enjoyed them. Make sure to comment below the dish that makes you happy. Maybe I'll try it. This is day 4 of trying dishes that make you happy. And today we have our first very special guest. Please give a warm welcome to Maya from Fit Green Mind.
Hey Kevin, the dish that makes me the happiest is Kaiserschmarrn. Basically it's a big fluffy pancake, but what makes it so special to me is that my mom makes the best Kaiserschmarrn ever. And as a little kid, my siblings and I loved it, but she only made it for us when my dad wasn't at home for lunch, which didn't happen too often as a teacher, but otherwise the 2 big pans just weren't enough for us all. I remember the days when I came back from school and I smelled the delicious sweet smell of Kaiserschmarrn and homemade applesauce. My brother, sister and I, we shared it, fought for the last piece, and that just makes me happy.
It is absolutely incredible. One of my favorite ones yet. Please do not call these Turkish dumplings. Set today's submission for dishes that make you happy. Because for day 5, I'm making Monte, which are little pockets of meat-filled dough. First, let's make the filling. Some grated onion, ground beef, and spices. Simple and perfect. Now, I could have bought pre-made dough given my history of completely messing up pretty much any dough, but I figured I can't learn without trying. And honestly, this was my first clearly successful dough. And because the submission said my grandma used to be very good at making them small enough so you'd be able to have spoonfuls of them, I foolishly tried to make them as small as I could. Well, that resulted in over an hour of filling and folding. My fingers still hurt, by the way. But at the end, I had these cute little guys that I boiled in some salted water for a couple of minutes. But what really elevates them are these 2 sauces. The first one is a garlic yogurt sauce, and the second one is a rich, sizzling hot tomato butter. And even though it was a lot of work, it was completely worth it. Dishes that make you happy, day 6. So this person sent me a link to this recipe, and this is what they said, quote, "It might be a recipe I got from a grocery store, but this ice cream cake changed my life. I had it at a Christmas dinner with my girlfriend a few years ago, and it made me want to try making it myself. It transformed my opinion on cooking and food, and it made me enthusiastic about trying recipes and experimenting with spices and flavors. It marked the start of my journey from dislikes cooking and can barely boil an egg to who loves cooking, and people regularly compliment me for my cooking. And as a tribute, I make this ice cream cake once a year around Christmas. It symbolizes the spark of culinary creativity and the drive of a new hobby. And I think that's really cool. You never know what can trigger that spark. And in this case, it happens to be this ice cream cake. I don't think I did the best job with this recipe, but I really enjoyed it. So thanks for sharing it with us. I'll see you tomorrow for day 7. What is the one dish that makes you happiest? For this person is bœuf bourguignon, and I'm sure I pronounced that perfectly. It did take quite some time to make this, but trust me, the results are worth it. As the submission put it, you need good beef, good wine, and a whole bunch of patience. Luckily, I had all of those things and more. For example, onions and carrots, you need that. Because even though it might seem like the star of the show is the beef, it's really all about the surrounding sauce. You want to have the right flavors and the right consistency, and all that will build up in about 4 hours in the oven, during which I have some time to prepare some tiny silver onions as well as some mushrooms. After cooking that down, I'm adding it to the stew to finish cooking. And let's just look at this result. I'm gonna be honest, the beef could have been a bit juicier, but this sauce was one of the most flavorful things I ever generated. The submission said, me and my cousins used to compete for who had the tallest mashed potato volcano to pour the sauce from, and I have to say I would have definitely lost that contest. Mine was more of a sad hill. Hey everyone, every day of December I'm trying dishes that make you happy. And for day 8 we have a very special guest. Everyone's favorite cooking NPC, Mr. Future Canoe.
Hey Kevin, we're starting with 160 grams of sugar and 100 grams of water. I'm using grams here because I think you're European. Are you Swiss? We'll put the heat on high, put on a lid, bring it to a boil, take off the lid. Once it's completely caramelized, we'll pour in 200 grams of heavy cream. Turn the heat to low and start whisking. In the beginning, it's going to be a little sticky. You just got to keep beating it. And you can't beat it on the couch because it's really hot. When everything's incorporated, we're putting 125 grams of butter. Here's what's going to make the flavor special. We're putting a teaspoon and a half of instant espresso, some dessert MSG, and sea salt. You can turn the heat off now, by the way. You can put on ice cream or crackers. I usually just drink it straight up like rum.
Wow. I rate this 4 futures out of 7 canoes. For day 9 of Dishes That Make You Happy, I got a submission simply entitled My Mom's Swedish Meatballs, and I want to just read it out to you. Cooking is big in my family. It's our love language, and her recipe is the culmination of many people's efforts, teachings, and love. The meatballs, which are the size of a fist, were taught to her and then to me by a neighbor who grew up to be like an aunt to me. The sauce is a creamy, dill-filled delight that's been adapted over the years to the taste of every person in our small family. As opposed to potatoes, we eat it with orzo. Whenever I'm feeling down or homesick, a solution that springs to mind is to make Swedish meatballs. Unfortunately, things between me and my mom have been tense since I came out, and I often find myself wishing I'd chosen to keep hiding to preserve our relationship. For me, eating this dish feels like that hug which both physical and emotional distance have made a rarity. It takes me back to the past when my family was a unit and I was a child easy to love. That actually blew my mind. Incredible. What is a dish that makes you happy? Day 10.
A dish that makes me happy? KWOOWK, why are you doing this to me? This is hard for me, you know this. There are many dishes that make me happy, but there's one that always pops in my mind. It is a perfectly crispy, hot, salty French fry with some sort of a creamy mayo dip. It's funny because this is so simple, it seems boring, but this is really special to me. A great French fry is not easy to make, but when it's perfect, it's unbeatably good. And that I go back to all the time. It brings back all my favorite childhood memories of going to my favorite burger joint when I was a kid with my friends. I've been on a diet for a while, and I'll tell you right now, the number one thing I crave is a crispy French fry with a creamy mayo dip. The key is it must be very crispy, not greasy, salted aggressively. I want to see little crystals of salt on that fry. I know it's gonna be salty and hot.
Texture over taste indeed.
Now for the mayo, it's a nice homemade mayo. Lots of grated garlic, fresh. A little sriracha, a little ketchup, a little bit of mustard, dill pickle, some chives. That is it. Remember, all things can be great, but most of the time, the best thing to do is to keep things simple. Love you, KWOOWK.
I love you too, Josh. I'm willing to bet you've never heard of this Italian dish, and it only takes 3 ingredients to make, because for day 11 of Dishes That Make You Happy, someone sent me a recipe called Friulano. This dish comes from the historical region of northeast Italy called Friuli, and it has, quote, a very long history rooted in both its land and its people. The key to this dish is the cheese. It uses a very specific cheese called Montasio, and luckily I could get my hands on some because I was so curious to try this. The cheese itself tastes creamy and delicate, but to get the full experience, we need to grate it and add it to a pan with onion and potatoes and olive oil. The cheese will melt into the potato and eventually form kind of a dough that we can fry for a few minutes to develop a crust. After that, I flipped it on a plate, slid it back, and cooked on the other side too. Now the submission said it's supposed to be shared with friends and family, and I figured my best friend is me. It was chewy, crispy, and amazing. Every day of December, I'm trying a dish that makes you happy. And for day 12, someone told me to make harsha. These guys are Moroccan semolina flatbreads, usually enjoyed around breakfast time. And they're beautifully simple to make. All I did was mix semolina, sugar, honey, salt, baking powder, some melted butter, and drizzled in some milk until the mixture comes together into a very satisfying dough. Then I made some balls, rolled them in semolina, and shaped them into these patties. Now all that's left to do is to cook them in a pan until they're cooked on low heat, just to make sure they don't burn. These first ones I flipped a little bit messily, so they're a bit crumbly, but for this one I was locked in, so look at that. The inside of these is rich, soft, and a bit crumbly. It's just very comforting, like I'd love to take a nap in there. And when you add honey and butter, it just takes it to the next level. I also made myself some sweet mint tea, and I can definitely see how this can be a slow, cozy morning dish in the very best way. This is day 13 of trying dishes that make you happy, and today we have a very special guest, content creator, musician, and my friend, Gabby Bell.
Hey Kevin, it's Gabby Bell, and the dish that makes me the happiest is brigadeiro. Brigadeiro is a Brazilian fudge dessert that I grew up with, and I love this dessert so much that I wrote a song about it. I was really in a creative rut for so long that I just decided to sit down and just write about anything that came to my mind. And I ended up loving writing this song so much because it's so me. I'm mixed race, so I've always struggled with my identity and having other people try to put me in a box or in this box, or I'm not this enough or I'm not that enough. And it really caused me to embrace this part of my identity and celebrate it and show it through this song, through this dessert. I can't wait for you to try brigadeiro. It's my absolute favorite. I can't wait for you to try it because I know you're gonna love it.
I didn't know I was allergic to good music. So rich and decadent. Wow. Thank you, Gabby. Life-changing. These were the only 2 words describing today's submission for dishes that make you happy. Because for day 14, we have mango sticky rice. Mango sticky rice is arguably the most famous Thai dessert, and I've never made it properly before. So let's see if it's actually gonna change my life. It's very important to start with the right type of rice. This is called glutinous rice, and despite its name, no, it doesn't have gluten, but it does produce a chewy, sticky texture when cooked properly. It's getting sticky. This rice is then steamed with the most delicious coconut cream syrup. The rice is gonna soak up all that sweet liquid, and eventually you'll be left with probably, I don't know, top 5 textures of all time. I will admit my mango game is pretty weak. I couldn't find a nice and ripe one, but it was still pretty juicy, but you know, let's focus on the rice. And to finish everything up, and in my opinion the best part, a salty coconut sauce that's gonna balance everything out and enhance all the flavors. But let's give it a taste. This is one of my favorite things in the world. This is day 15 of trying dishes that make you happy, and today's dish comes from 2 very special guests, the hosts of my favorite YouTube show at the moment, Riley and Graydon from Hive Mind. Or maybe that's Dignan, I can never know.
Hey Kevin, the dish that makes us happiest is white bean chicken chili.
Oh God, it makes us so happy. I do soup Sundays for most of the boys on Sundays, and Riley's mom is a wonderful cook and makes him delicious things that behave with his gentle dietary restrictions.
Yeah, I have lots of them. My mom makes white bean chicken chili, has always made it. It's a great recipe. And one day, for Soup Sunday, I sent the recipe over to Graydon, and he put a little spicy spin on it.
I remixed it, threw in some extra fun stuff, and made it a little my own thing with Joanne's sweet guidance.
So that's the dish that makes us happiest, and
keep on cooking,
and I hope it's really good. I hope you like it.
And cook on.
By the way, I'm watching a Hive Mind video while eating this. That is phenomenal. Thank you guys. Every bite of this cookie feels like a warm, cozy Christmas. And it's so easy to make. For day 16 of trying dishes that make you happy, someone requested Melo Macarona. These cookies come from Greece, and they're made with a semolina dough, enriched with fresh orange juice and a good olive oil. They're also full of warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. And let me tell you, I've been making a lot of food in the past weeks, but honestly, these cookies just had something special about them. I made them for a big dinner with a bunch of my friends, and and the feeling of everyone trying and loving these brought me a lot of joy. I even got the stamp of approval from a Greek friend of mine. Shout out to Vicky. The cookies are soaked in an orange cinnamon honey syrup and topped with ground walnuts at the end. And according to the submission, every bite brings back memories of all the previous bites throughout the years. And I thought that's a very beautiful way to think about it.
God damn, I just love that texture. Thank you, Greece.
This is day 17 of trying dishes that make you happy. And today we have another special guest. She makes some of my favorite food videos at the moment. Please welcome May from Day with May.
Hi Kevin, the dish that makes me the happiest is called Tian Shao Bai, or sweet cooked white in English. It's a classic Sichuan dish that's made with sticky rice, layers of fatty pork, sandwiched with red bean paste, steamed to perfection, and topped with a generous sprinkle of white sugar. Now, I can empathize if fatty pork in a sweet recipe sounds unexpected, but for me, this is pure nostalgia. It's the type of dish that's reserved for festive occasions. We're talking birthdays, wedding banquets, and holidays. It's a real labor of love, so you're gonna want to share it with your community. That's all to say. I hope it inspires some curiosity and courage in how we think about flavor, and I'm asking for your trust to give this flavor combination a shot.
Holy this is one of the best things I've ever tried.
What is a dish that makes you happy? Day 18. Chips and guac. It's not about the dish itself, it's about what happens around it. I love this description from the submission, and it really made me think about my own relationship with this dish. Whenever I make this, it's always about the people, the conversations, the laughter. This dish almost guarantees a good time, and I love that about it. The way I like my guac is with a lot of salt and lime, some onion, cilantro, and tomato, all smashed in a mortar and pestle. And to properly honor the gift from the gods that is guacamole, I decided to make my own corn tortilla chips from scratch. All you gotta do is take some corn tortillas and slice them into triangles, and then fry them in some hot oil until they're golden brown and crispy. And of course, generously salt them, but you should already know that's a given with any food I make. I plated them directly in the guac for a rustic aesthetic, is what I would say to my guests, but really I just don't want to dirty another dish.
That's really just one of the best things in the world.
This is day 19 of trying dishes that make you happy. And today we have a special guest that literally has more subscribers than Gordon Ramsay. Please welcome Master Chef Nick DiGiovanni.
Kevin, a dish that makes me really, really happy is a simple tahdig, a Persian tahdig. My grandfather, we called him Papa. He used to make it all the time. It's really simple. It's just rice and get a little bit of butter and some salt and you'll be good. It takes a while to make, but trust me, it's worth it.
I hope this is gonna work. 3, 2, 1. Hey.
Look at that crispiness. It's like the definition of crispiness. Nick, this is amazing.
What is a dish that makes you happy? Day 20.
So the dish I like is knefe. It's just cheesy, buttery, sugary. It has the fat, it has the carbs. In my day in Lebanon, we had a dairy farm, milking cows, stuff like that. When you're done, you're having your breakfast/dinner. Here's the spot there. Every country does it differently. Every region does it differently. In Lebanon, we call it knefe Nablsi. Nablsi from Nablus, so in Palestine. We make the knefe crust or farke. From that, we make other desserts also in Lebanon. For knefe, we have to dry it until it becomes crumbly. They used to go like this. In the old times, they had time. Just make it even. Low heat, most important. You don't want it to burn. Then the base is made out of cheese. We use akawi. Cheese time. Now you just wait until the cheese melts. So the professional part is knowing when it's done. Yes, it's amazing.
That's perfect.
Me personally, I don't like a lot of syrup, but
I do. It's so good.
everyone has his own thing, has his own heritage. As long as you're sending the correct message about your culture, then you're good.
Yeah.
Don't make something fake and say it's mine.
Every day of December, I'm trying dishes that make you happy. And for day 21, someone said Mapo Tofu. I have to admit I'm a bit biased. I picked this one for my own personal enjoyment. I remember tasting this for the first time at a Chinese restaurant, and the flavor profile completely shocked me. It was almost like I had discovered a new taste. And that unique quality of this dish is achieved through a spicy fermented bean sauce, and maybe most importantly, ground toasted Sichuan peppercorns. These cause like a numbing sensation in your mouth, and to me it's almost like a different genre of spicy that just unlocks new ways to experience taste. The rich, savory, and slightly sweet sauce is beautifully balanced out by the soft tofu that acts as a much needed, pillowy, comforting delivery mechanism to the thrilling, intense, amazing journey that is this sauce. I wrote the script at like 2 a.m. and it seems way too dramatic, but I'll just leave it like this. Even this part. It's all in the script. This was amazing. This is day 22 of trying dishes that make you happy. And I want to welcome our last special guest of the year. You already know and love him. It's Andy.
So the one dish that makes me the happiest is Dutch oliebollen. They're a fried donut filled with raisins and currants, and I also put Granny Smith apple, little diced Granny Smith apple in mine. They're fried and then they're doused in icing sugar, and you eat them around New Year's Eve. And this reminds me of amazing times hanging out with my family or my cousins and eating heaps of them, just absolutely covered in icing sugar. The icing sugar will go all over yourself. And it reminds me of amazing times. I love those little things. I hope you're well, legend, and I can't wait to see you pull this recipe off.
This is considered to be the Mount Everest of baking. And because for day 23 of trying dishes that make you happy, someone requested panettone, I spent the past month learning and obsessing over this Italian Christmas classic. It all starts with the mother dough, lievito madre. This thing required close to my full attention for weeks to get it ready to be in tip-top shape. It was straight up making my girlfriend jealous. Making the actual bread was a 3-day process that involved making 2 doughs and 2 pre-ferments, working night and day, dreaming of egg yolks, butter, and well-developed gluten structures. At the end, I had to let them proof inside skewered molds, because of course baking these is not the end of the job. They have to hang upside down for a day just so they don't collapse over themselves. And finally, I cut into one, and for some reason it had a huge hole in the middle. But I will consider this a success. It tasted like the most buttery, rich panettone I've ever had, so well done me, woohoo! This is day 24 of trying dishes that make you happy. And what better way to end this than to just read you one of my favorite submissions, my grandma's Tora Salata pugliese. Every time I have a slice, it brings me back to the summer spent with my grandma in our mountain house, away from all the chaos. There, we would spend our days going to the farmer's market, cooking together, playing card games, and watching cheesy TV shows to just pass the time. Unfortunately, my grandma passed away 3 years ago from ALS, but not before leaving me her cookbook in which she had written most of her signature dishes. Amongst all the other dishes, this was always the one that stuck with me for its simplicity, comfort, and amazing memories. The last time I got to prepare this was a little over a month ago for my graduation party, which I held in that same mountain house. And it made me feel very proud that I was able to prolong her legacy through this dish. And for the last bite of 2024, I want to thank you for sticking around. Enjoy your holiday season, and here's to a good 2025.